Did you know there's a job where employees are legally required to forget what they see every single day? Where workers sign contracts that could land them in federal prison if they ever talk about their shift? I'm talking about memory auditors at the National Archive of Classified Dreams. Yes, that's a real job. And today, I'm going to tell you exactly what they do. Why the government pays them $250,000 a year to stay silent. And most shocking of all, what happened when one of them broke their oath and revealed the truth about what's really stored in those underground vaults beneath Washington, D.C. But before we dive into this rabbit hole, let me ask you something. Have you ever wondered why certain memories from your childhood feel incredibly vivid, while others seem to have vanished completely? What if I told you that might not be an accident? What if someone, somewhere, has been carefully curating human memory for decades? The story I'm about to share with you came from Sarah Chen, a former memory auditor who worked at the facility for 3 years before disappearing in 2019. She left behind a detailed journal, photographs, and audio recordings that paint a picture so disturbing, so unbelievable, that when I first heard about it, I thought it had to be science fiction. But then I started digging. I found the job postings buried deep in government contractor websites. I found the building permits for construction projects that officially don't exist. I found budget allocations for departments that have no names. And most importantly, I found other people, former employees, security guards, maintenance workers, all with pieces of the same impossible puzzle. So what exactly is a memory auditor? According to the classified job description that Sarah managed to smuggle out, memory auditors are responsible for reviewing, cataloging, and when necessary, neutralizing memories that have been extracted from human subjects during various government programs. The official term they use is cognitive archaeological preservation, but what it really means is far more sinister. Every night, teams of memory auditors descend into a facility that exists 7 stories beneath the Smithsonian National Museum of American History. The elevator that takes them down requires 3 different key cards, a retinal scan, and a voice recognition system. But here's the twisted part. The voice recognition doesn't just verify who you are. It also plays a specific frequency that allegedly helps prepare your brain for the memory exposure you're about to experience. Sarah's first day on the job began like any other federal position: orientation, paperwork, security clearance interviews. But on her second day, when she was taken down to level 7 for the first time, she realized she had stepped into something that defied everything she thought she knew about reality. The main floor of the facility, which Sarah described as being roughly the size of a football stadium, contains thousands of what look like oversized file cabinets. But instead of paper documents, each drawer contains what the facility calls memory crystals. These are small, translucent objects about the size of a thumb drive that somehow contain complete human memories. Not just the visual component, but the emotions, physical sensations, even the smells and sounds from specific moments in people's lives. Sarah's job was to plug these crystals into a device that looked like a modified virtual reality headset and experience the memories firsthand. She would then write detailed reports categorizing the content, emotional impact, and what the facility called the security classification level of each memory. The memories themselves ranged from the mundane to the absolutely terrifying. Sarah documented experiencing a child's first day of school from 1962, a soldier's final moments during the Vietnam War, a scientist's breakthrough discovery in 1989, and hundreds of others. But the most disturbing part wasn't the content of the memories themselves. It was realizing where they had come from. According to internal documents that Sarah photographed, The Memory Crystal Collection began in 1953 as part of a classified program called Operation Cognitive Harvest. The program initially focused on extracting and preserving memories from individuals who had been exposed to classified information or traumatic events that could pose national security risks if they ever talked about what they had seen. But by the 1970s, the program had expanded dramatically. Sarah found evidence that memories were being harvested from hospital patients who had undergone certain types of surgery, from the individuals who had reported UFO encounters, from witnesses to unexplained phenomena, and even from people who had simply been in the wrong place at the wrong time during classified government operations. The technology used to extract these memories has evolved significantly over the decades, but according to Sarah's research, the current method involves a combination of electromagnetic field manipulation and what the documents refer to as quantum consciousness mapping. Subjects are typically unaware that the procedure is taking place, and afterwards they often report feeling confused or experiencing gaps in their memory about specific events. But here's where Sarah's story takes an even darker turn. During her second month on the job, she was assigned to review a batch of memory crystals that had been labeled Priority Alpha, Immediate Assessment Required. When she plugged in the first crystal, she found herself experiencing her own childhood memory, her 7th birthday party, complete with every detail she remembered and many she had forgotten. Panicked, Sarah immediately reported this to her supervisor, assuming there had been some kind of mistake or contamination in the system. But instead of concern or confusion, her supervisor simply made a note in Sarah's file and told her to continue with her assessment. It was then that Sarah realized the horrifying truth. The government hadn't just been harvesting memories from random citizens. They had been harvesting memories from their own employees. Over the following weeks, Sarah discovered that every person who worked at the facility had their memories regularly extracted and stored. The official justification was operational security. If employees ever quit, retired, or posed a security risk, the government could study their memories to determine exactly what classified information they had been exposed to and take appropriate action. But Sarah found evidence suggesting the program went much deeper than that. In a locked filing cabinet that she managed to access using a supervisor's keycard, she found psychological profiles and behavioral modification plans for dozens of current and former employees. The government wasn't just preserving memories, they were using them to identify ways to manipulate and control their own workforce. The profiles contained detailed analyses of each employee's fears, desires, traumatic experiences, and emotional triggers, all derived from their harvested memories. There were specific recommendations for how to leverage this information to ensure loyalty, prevent whistleblowing, and even influence personal life decisions that could affect job performance. Sarah also discovered that the Memory Crystal Collection included far more than just government employees and random citizens. There were entire sections dedicated to memories harvested from politicians, journalists, scientists, and other individuals in positions of influence. One particularly disturbing section contained memories from children, labeled with codes that Sarah later realized corresponded to various government experiments and programs targeting minors. But the most shocking discovery came when Sarah found a series of memory crystals labeled Fabricated Origin, Synthetic Implantation. These weren't memories that had been harvested from real people. They were artificial memories that had been created in a laboratory and then implanted into unwitting subjects. The attached documentation described field tests where fabricated memories of traumatic events, false childhood experiences, and even completely fictional relationships had been implanted into test subjects to study their effects on behavior and decision-making. According to the files, synthetic memory implantation had been tested on prison populations, military personnel, and individuals who had volunteered for what they believed were routine psychological studies. The success rates were disturbingly high, with most subjects fully incorporating the false memories into their personal histories and making life decisions based on experiences that had never actually happened to them. Sarah spent hours reviewing these synthetic memories, and she described the experience as profoundly unsettling. The artificial memories felt completely real when experienced through the memory crystal interface, but there was something subtly wrong about them, like watching a movie where all the actors were playing their roles perfectly, but you could sense they were still acting. The facility also contained what Sarah called the Black Vault, a restricted section that required special authorization to access. Sarah only managed to enter this area once, using keycards she had borrowed from an unconscious security guard who had suffered what appeared to be a medical emergency during her shift. What she found there still haunts her to this day. The Black Vault contained memory crystals from what the documentation called non-human intelligence encounters. These were memories harvested from individuals who had claimed contact with extraterrestrial beings, interdimensional entities, or other forms of non-human intelligence. But unlike the other sections of the facility, these memory crystals were stored in specially shielded containers and were only reviewed by senior staff members who had undergone what the files called cognitive fortification procedures. Sarah managed to review 3 of these crystals before triggering a security alert that forced her to flee the area. The first contained the memory of a Navy pilot who had encountered an unidentified aerial phenomenon off the coast of California in 2004. But the memory included details that had never been made public, details about communication attempts with the craft, about physical effects experienced by the pilot during the encounter, and about the immediate debriefing that followed. The second crystal contained memories from a civilian who had been abducted from their home in rural Montana in 1987. The memory was fragmented and disorienting, but it included clear images of non-human entities, advanced technology, and medical procedures being performed in what appeared to be some kind of spacecraft. Most disturbing was the fact that the memory ended with the subject being told that their experience would be forgotten and that false memories would be implanted to cover the time gap. The third crystal was the most disturbing of all. It contained memories from someone who appeared to be a government official involved in direct negotiations with non-human entities. The memory took place in what looked like an underground facility, and it included detailed discussions about technology exchanges, territorial agreements, and something called the Disclosure Timeline, a carefully planned schedule for gradually revealing the existence of non-human intelligence to the public. But what made this memory particularly chilling was the realization that it was dated less than 2 years ago. This wasn't ancient history or Cold War paranoia. This was evidence of ongoing contact and cooperation between the government and non-human entities, happening right now, in real time. Sarah's discovery of the Black Vault marked the beginning of the end of her career as a memory auditor. Over the following weeks, she noticed increased surveillance, changes in her work assignments, and subtle alterations to the facility's security protocols that seemed designed to limit her access to sensitive areas. She also began experiencing what she described as memory gaps, periods of time at work that she couldn't clearly remember, despite being certain she had been conscious and active during those periods. Realizing that her own memories were likely being harvested and potentially altered, Sarah began keeping detailed written records of everything she experienced at the facility. She hid these records in multiple locations and created backup copies that she stored with trusted friends who had no knowledge of her work or the classified nature of the information she was documenting. It was during this period that Sarah made her most disturbing discovery. While reviewing routine memory crystals from government employees, she found evidence that the memory harvesting program had been expanded to include mass collection from the general population. The crystals contained memories from ordinary citizens who had no connection to government work, classified information, or sensitive events. According to the documentation she found, memories were being harvested during routine medical procedures at hospitals across the country. Patients who underwent certain types of surgery, particularly procedures involving anesthesia, were having memories extracted without their knowledge or consent. The harvesting process was disguised as standard brain monitoring procedures, and patients were never informed that anything unusual had taken place. The scope of this mass harvesting operation was staggering. Sarah found evidence that memories had been collected from hundreds of thousands of individuals over the past decade. The official justification was sociological research and behavioral pattern analysis, but the real purpose appeared to be the creation of a massive database of human experience that could be used for purposes ranging from social control to psychological warfare. Sarah also discovered that the harvested memories were being used to create detailed psychological profiles of entire populations by analyzing the collective memories of people from specific geographic regions, socioeconomic backgrounds, or demographic groups. The government could identify cultural patterns, predict social trends, and develop targeted strategies for influencing public opinion and behavior. The implications were terrifying. The government had essentially created a window into the private thoughts, experiences, and emotions of its own citizens. They knew not just what people did, but how they felt about what they did, what motivated their decisions, and what fears and desires drove their behavior. But Sarah's investigation into the mass harvesting program revealed something even more disturbing. The collected memories weren't just being stored and analyzed. They were being used as the foundation for a new generation of synthetic memory implantation experiments. By studying real human memories in minute detail, researchers had developed the ability to create artificial memories that were virtually indistinguishable from genuine experiences. These synthetic memories were then being tested on unwitting subjects through various government programs. Sarah found evidence of fabricated memories being implanted in military personnel to enhance combat effectiveness, in government employees to ensure loyalty, and in civilian populations to test their effectiveness for large-scale social engineering projects. The ultimate goal, according to the classified documents Sarah reviewed, was the development of what researchers called collective memory architecture, the ability to implant coordinated false memories into large groups of people simultaneously. This technology could theoretically be used to create false historical narratives, justify government actions retroactively, or even erase public awareness of events that had actually occurred. As Sarah delved deeper into the facility's operations, she began to understand that the Memory Auditor program was just one component of a much larger project involving the systematic manipulation of human consciousness on a massive scale. The facility she worked in was apparently one of dozens located throughout the United States and in allied countries around the world. Each facility specialized in different aspects of memory research and manipulation, some focused on harvesting and preservation, others on analysis and categorization, and still others on the development of new synthetic memories and implantation techniques. The coordination between these facilities suggested a level of planning and resources that could only come from the highest levels of government. Sarah's final weeks at the facility were marked by increasingly desperate attempts to document everything she could before her inevitable discovery and removal from the program. She knew that her activities had not gone unnoticed, and she suspected that her own memories of the facility would soon be harvested and potentially altered or erased entirely. During her last shift, Sarah managed to access a server room that contained backup copies of the facility's entire digital archive. Using portable storage devices she had smuggled into the facility over several weeks, she copied terabytes of data, including memory catalogs, research reports, psychological profiles, and operational procedures. But as she was preparing to leave the facility for what she knew would be the last time, Sarah made one final discovery that changed everything she thought she knew about the program. Hidden in the deepest levels of the digital archive, she found evidence that the memory harvesting and manipulation programs weren't just government operations. They were part of something much larger and more terrifying. The documents she found suggested that the technology for memory extraction and implantation hadn't been developed by human scientists at all. Instead, it had been provided by the same non-human entities whose interactions with government officials Sarah had witnessed in the Black Vault memory crystals. The entities had apparently shared this technology as part of a larger agreement that included provisions for studying human consciousness and behavior on a massive scale. According to the documents, the non-human entities were conducting their own research into human psychology and social structures, using the memory harvesting program as a way to gather data about human experience without directly interfering with society. The government's role was essentially that of a data collection service, harvesting and processing human memories in exchange for access to advanced technology and other benefits. But the most disturbing aspect of this arrangement was the revelation that the entities had been gradually influencing human development for decades through the strategic implantation of synthetic memories designed to guide social and technological progress in specific directions. Major historical events, scientific discoveries, and cultural shifts had apparently been influenced by carefully placed artificial memories that inspired key individuals to make decisions that served the entity's long-term objectives. Sarah's discovery of this larger conspiracy explained many of the inconsistencies and mysteries she had encountered during her time as a memory auditor. The advanced technology, the massive resources, the coordination between facilities, the sophisticated understanding of human psychology, none of it made sense as a purely human operation. But as part of a non-human study of human civilization, it was not only plausible, but inevitable. Armed with this knowledge and the evidence she had collected, Sarah made the decision to abandon her position and flee the facility. She knew that once her activities were discovered, she would face not only legal consequences, but the very real possibility of having her memories altered or erased entirely. The thought of losing her own identity and becoming an unknowing puppet in someone else's agenda was more terrifying than any punishment the government might impose. Sarah's escape from the facility was carefully planned and executed over several days. She had identified security vulnerabilities, established safe routes, and prepared emergency protocols for various scenarios. But even with all her preparation, she knew that her chances of successfully evading capture for any extended period were minimal. The resources and capabilities at the disposal of the memory harvesting program were simply too vast for any individual to overcome. On the night of her escape, Sarah triggered multiple false alarms throughout the facility to create confusion and misdirect security personnel, while emergency teams responded to fabricated incidents on various levels. She made her way to a maintenance exit that she had discovered during her weeks of surveillance. The exit led to a tunnel system that connected the facility to the broader infrastructure beneath Washington, D.C. Sarah spent 3 days moving through the underground tunnel system, using maps she had memorized and supplies she had cached in advance. She avoided detection by staying in areas that were rarely patrolled and by timing her movements to coincide with shift changes and maintenance schedules that she had learned during her time at the facility. When she finally emerged above ground, Sarah was 3 miles from the facility in a suburban area of Virginia. She had arranged for a trusted friend to provide transportation, and within hours, she was on her way to a safe location where she could begin the process of organizing and distributing the evidence she had collected. But Sarah's freedom was short-lived. Within 2 weeks of her escape, she began experiencing the same memory gaps that she had noticed during her final weeks at the facility. At first, she attributed these gaps to stress and lack of sleep. But as they became more frequent and more pronounced, she realized that her memories were being harvested remotely, using technology that didn't require her physical presence at the facility. The technology had apparently been miniaturized and could be deployed through various everyday devices, smartphones, laptops, even smart home appliances, to access and manipulate memories from a distance. Sarah documented these remote harvesting sessions in detail, noting that they typically occurred during sleep or periods of distraction, when her conscious mind was less likely to notice the intrusion. She began to recognize the subtle signs, brief moments of disorientation, sudden changes in mood, and most tellingly, the discovery of handwritten notes in her own handwriting that she had no memory of creating. These mysterious notes contained information about her daily activities, emotional states, and thoughts during the periods when her memories were being accessed. It was as if someone was creating a real-time psychological profile of her mental state, while simultaneously erasing her awareness of the process. The level of invasiveness was beyond anything she had imagined possible. Desperate to protect her remaining memories and the evidence she had collected, Sarah began experimenting with various countermeasures. She discovered that certain electromagnetic frequencies seemed to interfere with the remote harvesting process, and she rigged her safe house with improvised shielding, using materials she could obtain without raising suspicion. The shielding was only partially effective, but it gave Sarah enough protection to begin the process of organizing the vast amount of data she had stolen from the facility. As she worked through the file, she uncovered additional layers of the conspiracy that made her previous discoveries seem almost mundane by comparison. Among the documents were detailed records of what the facility called historical memory revision, a program that involved identifying individuals who possessed memories of significant historical events and then systematically altering or erasing those memories to change the collective understanding of what had actually occurred. The scope of historical revision was staggering. Sarah found evidence of memory alterations involving witnesses to political assassinations, survivors of military incidents, participants in government experiments, and even historians and journalists whose research had uncovered inconvenient truths. The goal was not just to hide individual secrets, but to reshape the entire historical narrative in ways that served current political and strategic objectives. One particularly disturbing file contained records of a project called Generational Memory Management, which involved identifying children and young adults who showed signs of inherited trauma or whose family histories included knowledge of classified events. These individuals were subjected to synthetic memory implantation designed to replace their inherited memories with false narratives that supported official historical accounts. The psychological profiles in these files revealed the devastating effects of such interventions. Many subjects experienced chronic depression, anxiety, and identity disorders as their subconscious minds struggled to reconcile the artificial memories with their deeper intuitive knowledge of the truth. Some developed multiple personality disorders as their psyche essentially split to accommodate contradictory versions of reality. But perhaps most horrifying was the discovery that the generational memory management program had been running for over 40 years, meaning that entire families had been systematically stripped of their authentic memories and replaced with fabricated versions designed to serve the interests of the shadow government conducting these operations. Sarah also found evidence of what the documents called predictive memory implantation, the practice of implanting memories of events that hadn't happened yet, but which the planners wanted to occur in the future. By giving key individuals vivid false memories of future scenarios, the program could influence their decision-making in ways that made those scenarios more likely to actually happen. The predictive implantation files contained detailed psychological analyses of politicians, business leaders, scientists, and other influential figures who had been given artificial memories designed to guide their future actions. The memories were crafted to feel like prophetic visions, inspirational dreams, or profound revelations that motivated the subjects to pursue specific goals without realizing they were following someone else's agenda. According to the documentation, predictive memory implantation had been used to influence everything from election outcomes and business mergers to scientific research priorities and military strategies. The technology essentially allowed a small group of planners to puppet master major world events by manipulating the memories and decision-making processes of key individuals. As Sarah continued her analysis of the stolen data, she began to understand that the memory manipulation programs were just one component of a comprehensive system of social control that operated at multiple levels simultaneously. The same non-human entities that had provided the memory technology were also influencing human society through other channels, including economic manipulation, technological development guidance, and even environmental modifications designed to affect human behavior on a subconscious level. The entities appeared to be conducting a long-term experiment in social engineering, using humanity as test subjects in a study of consciousness, free will, and collective behavior. The memory programs provided them with unprecedented insight into human psychology, while simultaneously giving them the ability to modify that psychology to serve their research objectives. But Sarah's most shocking discovery came when she found her own psychological profile buried deep in the classified files. The document revealed that her recruitment as a memory auditor hadn't been coincidental. She had been specifically selected based on predictive algorithms that identified her as likely to eventually discover and expose the program. According to her file, Sarah's exposure of the memory manipulation conspiracy was not an unintended consequence of security failures, but rather a planned outcome designed to serve the entity's research objectives. Her escape, her documentation efforts, and even her current attempts to reveal the truth were all anticipated and incorporated into the larger experimental framework. The file contained detailed predictions about her future actions, including her efforts to contact journalists, her attempts to reach government oversight officials, and her eventual decision to go public with her discoveries. Each predicted action was accompanied by countermeasures designed to limit the effectiveness of her exposure efforts while still allowing the experiment to continue. This revelation was profoundly destabilizing for Sarah. The realization that her rebellion against the system was itself part of the system created an existential crisis that threatened her sanity. If even her resistance was predetermined and manipulated, did she have any genuine agency at all? Was her sense of fighting for truth and justice just another implanted memory designed to serve someone else's agenda? Despite these doubts, Sarah pressed forward with her analysis of the stolen data. She discovered that the memory manipulation programs were entering a new phase that would dramatically expand their scope and impact. The files contained plans for what was called mass consciousness synchronization, the simultaneous implantation of coordinated memories into large populations to create shared false experiences that would justify major social and political changes. The synchronization technology had apparently been tested in smaller populations with remarkable success. The files documented experiments involving entire towns where residents were given shared false memories of natural disasters, terrorist attacks, and other traumatic events that had never actually occurred. These shared false experiences created powerful social bonds and collective trauma responses that made the populations highly susceptible to manipulation and control. The plans for mass deployment of synchronization technology included detailed scenarios for creating false memories of alien invasion, natural catastrophes, economic collapse, and other crisis situations that would justify emergency government powers and the suspension of civil liberties. The beauty of the system, from the planner's perspective, was that the populations would genuinely believe they had experienced these events and would enthusiastically support the very measures being used to control them. Sarah also found evidence of international coordination in the memory manipulation programs. Similar facilities were operating in dozens of countries around the world, all following standardized protocols and sharing data through encrypted networks. The scope suggested a truly global conspiracy involving not just shadow government elements, but a parallel power structure that transcended national boundaries. The international files contained references to cultural memory standardization programs designed to eliminate local variations in historical understanding and replace them with globally consistent narratives that supported the entity's long-term objectives. Traditional cultures with strong oral histories were particular targets, as their authentic memories of pre-technological societies posed challenges to the artificial narratives being promoted in more developed regions. As Sarah worked through the massive data archive, she began to notice patterns in the memory manipulation that suggested the entities were preparing for some kind of major transition or culminating event. The frequency of memory harvesting had increased dramatically in recent years, and the types of memories being collected had shifted toward those involving personal relationships, emotional attachments, and core identity concepts. The entities appeared to be building a comprehensive map of human emotional and social structures, possibly in preparation for a more direct intervention in human affairs. The memory data was being used to model human reactions to various scenarios and to identify optimal strategies for managing populations during periods of social upheaval or transformation. Sarah found references to something called the final integration phase, which appeared to involve the complete replacement of authentic human memories with standardized artificial versions that would eliminate individual variation in thought and behavior. The goal seemed to be the creation of a perfectly controllable human population that would serve the entity's purposes without resistance or independent initiative. The timeline for final integration was not specified in the documents Sarah had access to, but various references suggested it was planned to occur within the next decade. The preparation phase involved not only the continued harvesting and mapping of human memories, but also the gradual conditioning of populations through increasingly sophisticated synthetic memory implantation. By the time Sarah completed her analysis of the stolen data, she had been in hiding for over 3 months. The remote memory harvesting attempts had continued throughout this period, but her electromagnetic shielding and constant vigilance had largely protected her from major intrusions. However, she knew that her countermeasures were temporary at best, and that more sophisticated harvesting technology was likely being deployed to locate and access her. Sarah made the decision to begin distributing her findings immediately. rather than waiting to complete a more thorough analysis. She recognized that time was running out and that her ability to think and act independently might be compromised at any moment. The evidence she had collected was already more than sufficient to expose the existence of the memory manipulation programs, even if she couldn't provide complete details about their full scope and implications. Her distribution strategy involved multiple channels designed to ensure that the information would reach the public even if some of her efforts were intercepted or neutralized. She prepared packages of evidence for investigative journalists, government oversight officials, civil liberties organizations, and academic researchers. Each package was tailored to the specific interests and capabilities of its intended recipient. Sarah also created a comprehensive digital archive that she uploaded to multiple secure servers around the world, with automated distribution systems that would release the information publicly if she failed to check in regularly. The dead man's switch approach was her insurance against being captured or having her memories erased before the truth could be revealed. But even as Sarah implemented her distribution plan, she knew that the entities behind the memory manipulation programs would likely have anticipated her actions and prepared countermeasures. The psychological profile in her file had predicted her decision to go public, and there were undoubtedly strategies in place to discredit her revelations, neutralize the evidence, or simply ensure that the public dismissed her claims as the delusions of an unstable individual. The challenge of exposing a conspiracy that involved the manipulation of human memory and perception was almost insurmountable. How could she prove that people's memories had been altered when those same people would have no recollection of their original experiences? How could she demonstrate the existence of synthetic memories when the technology was designed to make them indistinguishable from authentic ones? Sarah realized that her only hope lay in the sheer volume and consistency of the evidence she had collected, combined with the testimony of other individuals who had managed to retain fragments of their authentic memories, despite the manipulation attempts. If enough people came forward with similar experiences, the pattern might be impossible to dismiss or explain away. In her final weeks of freedom, Sarah focused on reaching out to former facility employees, government contractors, and others who might have knowledge of the memory manipulation programs. Using encrypted communication channels and anonymous networking techniques, she made contact with dozens of individuals who confirmed various aspects of her discoveries. Many of these contacts reported similar experiences with memory gaps, remote harvesting, and synthetic implantation. Some had independently discovered evidence of the programs through their own investigations, while others had been carrying suppressed memories of their involvement in classified research projects. The consistency of their accounts provided powerful corroboration for Sarah's claims, but Sarah's outreach efforts also attracted the attention of the entities she was trying to expose. Her contacts began experiencing intensified memory harvesting, and several individuals who had agreed to provide testimony suddenly changed their minds or claimed to have no knowledge of the programs they had previously confirmed. It became clear that the conspiracy had the ability to identify and neutralize potential whistleblowers with alarming efficiency. Sarah's own situation deteriorated rapidly as the countermeasures against her revelations intensified. Her electromagnetic shielding began failing more frequently, and she experienced increasingly severe memory gaps that left her unable to account for hours or even days of her life. She suspected that synthetic memories were being implanted to replace the periods that had been erased, but she had no way to distinguish authentic experiences from fabricated ones. The psychological impact of this uncertainty was devastating. Sarah found herself questioning every memory, every emotion, every decision she made. Was her determination to expose the truth a genuine expression of her values, or was it an implanted compulsion designed to serve the entity's research objectives? Was her love for her family real, or was it a synthetic emotion created to provide leverage for her manipulation? As her ability to trust her own perceptions deteriorated, Sarah made a final desperate attempt to preserve some record of her authentic self. She created what she called a memory testament, a detailed written account of her experiences, thoughts, and emotions during the period before her involvement with the memory manipulation programs. The testament was intended to serve as a baseline against which future memories could be compared. Assuming anyone would be able to access and understand it, Sarah hid copies of the memory testament in multiple secure locations, along with instructions for its use and interpretation. She hoped that if her memories were completely overwritten, someone might eventually discover these documents and use them to reconstruct her original identity and motivations. But even as she completed these final preparations, Sarah knew that her time was running out. The remote memory harvesting had become so intensive that she was experiencing gaps of several hours every day, and she suspected that her ability to think clearly and act independently was being systematically degraded. The entities were apparently preparing to reclaim her entirely, probably by replacing her rebellious memories with those of a compliant individual who would pose no threat to their operations. Sarah's last coherent entry in her journal was a plea to anyone who might eventually discover her evidence to continue the work of exposing the memory manipulation programs. She acknowledged that she might soon become an unknowing agent of the very conspiracy she had fought to reveal. But she expressed hope that the truth would eventually emerge through the efforts of others who had managed to preserve their authentic memories and independent thinking. The journal entry ended with a haunting observation about the nature of identity and consciousness. In a world where memories could be harvested, altered, and implanted at will, Sarah questioned whether human individuality could survive in such an environment, or whether the species was destined to become a collective of artificially programmed minds serving the purposes of entities whose own nature and motivations remained fundamentally alien. What happened to Sarah Chen after that final journal entry remains unknown. Some researchers believe she was recaptured and her memories completely overwritten, transforming her into an unwitting agent of the programs she had tried to expose. Others suggest she may have been eliminated entirely to prevent any possibility of her recovering her original memories and resuming her resistance activities. There are also theories that Sarah managed to escape the memory harvesting technology by using more advanced countermeasures, and that she continues to work underground to expose the conspiracy from a position of greater security. Occasional reports surface of individuals who claim to have been contacted by someone matching her description, offering evidence of continued memory manipulation programs and urging others to investigate and resist. But perhaps the most disturbing possibility is that Sarah's entire story, from her recruitment as a memory auditor to her eventual escape and resistance, was itself a fabricated narrative implanted into the minds of those who now believe they remember her case. The sophistication of the memory manipulation technology she described would certainly be capable of creating such elaborate false histories, complete with supporting documentation and corroborating witnesses. This uncertainty about the fundamental reality of Sarah's story illustrates the profound epistemological crisis created by memory manipulation technology. If human memory and perception can be artificially controlled, then no individual can be certain about the authenticity of their own experiences, and no society can maintain confidence in its collective understanding of truth and history. The implications extend far beyond government conspiracy theories into the very foundations of human knowledge and identity. If the technology Sarah described actually exists, then humanity faces an existential threat not to its physical survival, but to its cognitive independence and authentic consciousness. Whether Sarah Chen's revelations represent genuine whistleblowing or sophisticated disinformation, they raise critical questions about the nature of memory, identity, and free will in an age of advanced neurotechnology. The possibility that human consciousness could be manipulated on the scale she described demands serious investigation and public discussion, regardless of skepticism about the specific claims in her account. The evidence she allegedly collected remains hidden in secure locations around the world, waiting for someone with the courage and resources to verify its authenticity and reveal its contents to the public. Till that happens, Sarah's story serves as a warning about the potential dangers of memory manipulation technology and the importance of protecting the integrity of human consciousness from those who would exploit it for their own purposes. But remember, every time you struggle to recall a childhood memory, every time you feel uncertain about something you're sure you experienced, every time you have that nagging feeling that something important has been forgotten, ask yourself whether your memory is truly your own, or whether someone, somewhere, has decided what you should and shouldn't remember. The truth about human memory manipulation may be more widespread than any of us realize, and the only way to protect our authentic selves may be to remain constantly vigilant about the integrity of our own thoughts and experiences. Because in a world where memories can be stolen, altered, and implanted without detection, the line between reality and fabrication becomes dangerously thin. What do you think? Have you ever experienced memory gaps or found evidence of thoughts you don't remember having? Leave your experiences in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more investigations into the hidden truths that shape our reality. Your memories may be more valuable than you realize, and someone out there may already be trying to harvest them. But Sarah Chen's story isn't the only evidence we have of systematic memory manipulation. Over the past 6 months, I've been contacted by dozens of individuals who claim to have similar experiences, and their testimonies paint an even more disturbing picture of how widespread these programs might actually be. Take the case of Dr. Marcus Webb, a neuroscientist who worked at a private research facility in Colorado from 2018 to 2021. Dr. Webb reached out to me after seeing my preliminary research on memory manipulation, and what he told me adds a terrifying new dimension to this conspiracy. According to Dr. Webb, the facility where he worked was ostensibly developing treatments for Alzheimer's disease and other memory-related disorders, but he gradually discovered that the real purpose of the research was to perfect memory extraction and implantation techniques for commercial applications. The facility was being funded through a complex network of shell companies that ultimately traced back to major technology corporations and defense contractors. Dr. Webb's job involved testing experimental devices that could map neural pathways associated with specific memories. The official goal was to identify and preserve memories before they were lost to degenerative diseases. But Dr. Webb noticed that the devices were also capable of extracting and copying memories from healthy subjects, and that the research was increasingly focused on developing this capability rather than treating medical conditions. The most disturbing aspect of Dr. Webb's testimony is his claim that the facility was conducting unauthorized experiments on patients at nearby hospitals and medical centers. Individuals undergoing routine brain scans or neurological procedures were having their memories harvested without their knowledge or consent. The extraction process was disguised as standard medical monitoring, and patients never realized that anything unusual had occurred. Dr. Webb provided me with internal documents that show the facility had collected memories from over 12,000 individuals during his time there. The memories were cataloged by emotional content, factual information, and what the researchers called manipulation potential. How useful each memory would be for influencing behavior or creating false experiences. But perhaps most shocking was Dr. Webb's discovery that some of the harvested memories were being sold to private clients through an encrypted marketplace. Wealthy individuals could purchase specific types of experiences, childhood memories of loving families, memories of academic or professional achievements, even memories of romantic relationships, and have them implanted to enhance their own psychological profiles. The implications of a commercial market for human memories are staggering. If authentic experiences can be bought and sold like commodities, then personal identity becomes meaningless. The rich could literally purchase better childhoods, more impressive credentials, and more fulfilling relationships, while the poor could find their most precious memories stolen and sold to the highest bidder. Dr. Webb also revealed that the facility was working on what he called memory laundering, the process of taking traumatic or negative memories from one person and implanting them into another individual who could be used as a scapegoat or fall guy for crimes they didn't commit. A person could literally have false memories of committing murders, terrorist attacks, or other serious crimes implanted into their mind, making them genuinely believe they were guilty, even though they had never actually performed those actions. The memory laundering process was apparently being tested on prison populations and individuals with severe mental illness who were unlikely to be believed if they claimed their memories weren't real. The ultimate goal was to create a system where powerful individuals could commit crimes with impunity by transferring the psychological consequences to expendable victims who would confess and accept responsibility for actions they had never actually taken. Dr. Webb's revelations about commercial memory trafficking led me to investigate similar operations in other parts of the world. What I found suggests that memory manipulation has become a global industry, with applications ranging from corporate espionage and political blackmail to psychological warfare and social engineering. In Eastern Europe, I found evidence of facilities that specialize in harvesting memories from refugees and displaced persons. These vulnerable populations are targeted because they have limited legal protections and are unlikely to be believed if they report unusual experiences. Their memories of trauma, loss, and survival are apparently valuable for creating synthetic experiences that can be used to manipulate others who haven't actually experienced such hardships. The harvested trauma memories are reportedly used to create more convincing false identities for intelligence operatives, more effective propaganda materials for political campaigns, and more realistic training scenarios for military and law enforcement personnel. The authentic emotional content of genuine suffering makes these synthetic memories far more powerful than artificially created alternatives. In Asia, I discovered evidence of memory manipulation being used for industrial espionage on an unprecedented scale. Corporate researchers, engineers, and executives are having their professional memories harvested and analyzed to extract proprietary information, trade secrets, and strategic plans. The information is then sold to competing companies or used to manipulate stock markets and business decisions. The industrial memory theft operates through seemingly legitimate business conferences, corporate retreats, and professional development programs, where participants are exposed to memory extraction technology, disguised as team-building exercises or leadership training activities. Attendees leave these events with no awareness that their most valuable professional knowledge has been copied and potentially stolen. But the most disturbing international application of memory manipulation involves what researchers call cultural memory warfare. Now, the systematic alteration of collective memories within entire populations to change their cultural identity, historical understanding, and social values. This process involves identifying key individuals within communities, teachers, religious leaders, family elders, and other cultural transmitters, and altering their memories of traditional practices, historical events, and cultural values. By changing the memories of these cultural gatekeepers, entire societies can be gradually transformed without the population realizing that their traditional knowledge and values are being systematically erased and replaced. The process is slow and subtle, taking place over decades, but the cumulative effect is the complete transformation of cultural identity in ways that serve the interests of those controlling the memory manipulation technology. I found evidence suggesting that cultural memory warfare has been used to weaken traditional societies that resist modernization, to eliminate ethnic and religious minorities by erasing their cultural distinctiveness, and to create more compliant populations that are easier to control and exploit. The victims of these operations genuinely believe that their modified cultural memories are authentic, making resistance virtually impossible. The scope and sophistication of these international memory manipulation programs suggests that we're dealing with a coordinated global effort involving multiple governments, corporations, and possibly non-human entities working together to reshape human consciousness on a planetary scale. The technology has apparently reached a level of sophistication where entire populations can be manipulated without their awareness or consent. This brings us to perhaps the most terrifying possibility raised by the evidence I've collected, that you, person listening to this right now, may have already been subjected to memory manipulation without knowing it. The symptoms are subtle and easily dismissed as normal forgetfulness, but they may actually indicate that your memories have been harvested, altered, or replaced. Do you ever feel like you remember an event differently than everyone else who was there? Do you have childhood memories that feel somehow artificial or staged? Have you ever discovered evidence of activities you don't remember doing? Notes in your handwriting, purchases you don't recall making, conversations others remember that you can't place. These could all be signs that your memory has been manipulated. The technology has become so sophisticated that synthetic memories feel completely authentic, while genuine memories can be selectively erased or altered without leaving obvious traces. The only way to detect the manipulation is through careful analysis of inconsistencies and contradictions that most people never notice. But there are ways to protect yourself if you're willing to take them seriously. The electromagnetic shielding techniques that Sarah Chen discovered can provide some protection against remote memory harvesting, though they require constant vigilance and regular updating as the technology evolves. More importantly, you can develop what researchers call memory authentication protocols, techniques for verifying the authenticity of your own memories and detecting potential manipulations. Memory authentication involves creating detailed written records of important experiences, cross-referencing your memories with independent sources, and regularly reviewing your personal history for inconsistencies or gaps that might indicate manipulation. It also involves developing a network of trusted individuals who can help verify shared experiences and provide external validation of your memories. The process is time-consuming and requires considerable discipline, but it may be the only way to maintain authentic selfhood in a world where human consciousness can be artificially manipulated. The alternative is to remain vulnerable to having your thoughts, emotions, and identity shaped by entities whose motivations and objectives remain fundamentally unknown. As I conclude this investigation into the hidden world of memory manipulation, I want to emphasize that the evidence I've presented represents just the beginning of what may be the most important story of our time. The technology for harvesting, altering, and implanting human memories appears to be real, operational, and being used on a massive scale for purposes that threaten the very foundations of human consciousness and identity. Whether this technology is being controlled by shadow government agencies, corporate interests, or non-human entities may be less important than the fact that it exists and is being used to manipulate human experience without consent or awareness. The implications for free will, authentic identity, and cognitive independence are profound and disturbing. The time has come for humanity to confront the reality that our most private thoughts and memories may no longer be truly private or authentic. We must demand transparency about memory manipulation, research, legal protections for cognitive liberty, and international cooperation to prevent the abuse of these technologies. Most importantly, we must learn to question our own memories and experiences, not out of paranoia, but out of a commitment to maintaining our authentic selves in the face of unprecedented technological threats to human consciousness. The future of human identity may depend on our ability to distinguish between genuine experience and artificial manipulation. Remember, your memories are not just personal history. They are the foundation of your identity, the source of your values, and the basis of your decision-making. If they can be stolen, altered, or replaced without your knowledge, then your very self is under attack. Stay vigilant, question everything, and never assume that what you remember is necessarily what actually happened. In a world where memory itself can be weaponized, eternal vigilance may be the price of maintaining an authentic mind.